dungeons in the long run, I think, is a good way to push your execution edge, because that means the seed's going to be longer, and more time playing is more time for you to have an advantage.
That makes sense. So we have a very early hammer there over on P-Train's screen in the Sanctuary.
Guess we're not too likely to see bomb strats from Mini Moldrum Cave tonight, if that's the case.
No, I think we're just going to be thwacking them. So we have route divergence right away, so that's always cool. We kind of get to see double the items. Just 20 rupees from the tree pool. Oh, and full magic from the bush critter there. P-Train already putting that hammer to good use. And just 20 rupees in the mushroom spot. So the runners are going to be trying to collect rupees, especially at the beginning here, as they head to Kakariko. They're going to need at least 100 for the item from the bottle vendor, and might need some bombs as well, which is going to cost some money too.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, part of why prieR decided to go ahead and open up by checking Uncle first. Gives a few extra chances to find some early money or bombs. Now this is interesting. P-Train decided to do sort of a bit of a split open. Go over and check the Lost Woods first, save and quit, do the Uncle checks, and then not have to do that all in one walk. That can save a little bit of time depending on how things go.
Depending on how things go, that should be like the tagline for Randomizer. You know, it's all just a crapshoot at the end of the day, but it's definitely good to see different choices being made to kind of, you know, mix things up. On prieR57 side, is this the Link Santa?
Yes, that does appear to be the Santa Link sprite, so as mail upgrades come, he'll start to look more and more like Santa. Meanwhile, I believe P-Train is using the modern Link sprite.
Yeah, it looks like it. And there's our first lift upgrade from Blind's Hut. We also had a bottle, which will be very useful here in a moment as we go visit the sick kid. There's our mushroom in escape too. So it's funny we haven't seen a map check yet, because of course this is all dungeons, and that matters a lot less than it would in a typical seed. But there are some things that it could tell you that could be useful. You know, the green pendant, for instance, is going to lead to an item, so it could be useful to know what that's going to be. But still, I don't think it's going to change anything that they're doing right now, which is why we haven't seen any of those checks.
Yeah, there are definitely small deviations that you can make in open mode at the beginning. However, typically players are going to more or less fall into a very small set of paths.
P-Train setting up a Death Warp here. We'll get back to the entrance very quickly that way. And it looks like they're gonna go check the dark chest. So this is a pretty easy dark room overall. It is not. There's not a whole lot of directional input that's needed. I would say the toughest part is going to be in the third room here, trying to find that chest that's sort of just in the middle of the hallway. That can be a little bit difficult. So we'll see how prieR makes out here. There's also the snake room. Just picked up a heart, so that's pretty helpful. Ooh, needs to be careful. Okay. There are some enemies in this room, though, so definitely needs to be careful for that. Use that hammer, try to see where they are. Oh no, I don't think they got the chest. It didn't seem like they got that. Okay, and they are going to go ahead and do something else for now. Maybe come back for that later. As I said, that is a tough one. It's really tough in that third room to try to find that chest there. It looked like they might have overshot it, tried to go back, and unfortunately got hit by maybe a bat or one of the rats in there. But on prieR57 side, we will see what's in the back of this game. We have the key, bombs, and 50 rupees. Ultimately not too terribly helpful, although it's always nice to get rupees in the early game. Okay, I'm seeing in chat that we have maybe need to turn up the volume for one of the commentators. I don't know if that's me or not. If it is, just holler and I will make an adjustment. And I believe GTG is doing a refresh to try to fix some technical issues, so we'll hold it down until he gets back. It is me, okay. Alright, hopefully that helps. Alright, so we have a Bat Cave now on prieR's side, and prieR of the Dam just gets 10 arrows. And the Moon Pearl, wow. Always good to find that nice and early. That is a pretty well tucked away spot, and prieR does not have the magic powder yet, so they're going to need to hope they find that soon so they can catch up. And chat pointing out, as soon as prieR finds that lift upgrade, which we know is coming up here soon, they will have Dark World access, and that's pretty early. That's a pretty early Dark World access, so definitely looking like a good pace for prieR so far. Now, prieR is also fairly close to having Dark World access, just needs to go find that Moon Pearl, but they are currently headed in the opposite direction, so it might take a little while for them to get back and check that. And we get 20 rupees for 100 rupees from the bottle vendor. A little bit of a life lesson there. prieR deftly avoiding those crab guys, just barely missing them. And they hurt a lot, so that's good. And just a piece of heart in the ice cave. Unfortunately, I missed what was on prieR's side there in the back. Just a lot of love in the front side of the well. Looks like prieR is making the eastern play. We'll check Sahasrarlu's closet and possibly dip into eastern, though that remains to be seen. And P-Train officially has Dark World access. I wonder if they will just head north of Kakariko and go straight into Village of Outcast from here. And prieR finds the first sword, another bottle, and the blue boomerang. That's a nice closet. Looks like prieR is going to dip into Eastern here. Of course, does not have the bow, so won't be able to full clear. But there is a pretty good chance they could get 3 items and a hint in here, so definitely worth taking a little bit. CK just has some love this time. prieR finds our first item in Eastern Palace. It's a full heart. I'm hearing that the volume is good. Glad to hear that. And yes, P-Train is heading straight into the Dark World. So 11 minutes and 30 seconds or so. Oh, and we have our map check. I did see a red crystal on Meyer. Fortunately, I didn't see a whole lot else. Hopefully our tracker will help us out there. So P-Train making a dip into what used to be known as Value Woods due to the amount of times that you would find some useful items in the 2 items that are in Skull Woods. Haven't really heard that a whole lot recently, to be honest. We'll see if this qualifies as a Value Woods this time. I saw something about arrows on that hint. Didn't appear to be too particularly useful, although it could have been telling us the arrows were in a really rare spot, so that would be useful if that were the case. P-Train takes a death. Oh, it looks like it was a death warp. Okay. Meanwhile, prieR is in the dark in the Eastern Palace Dark Room, considered to be one of the easier dark rooms to learn. prieR even grabbing an extra heart there while they're in there. And just 20 rupees on prieR side. Didn't look like Eastern had a whole lot, unfortunately, that's going to be helpful, and neither did Houserless Closet. Meanwhile, P-Train finds the flippers in Skull Woods, so I'd have to say that that qualifies as a value, if I've ever seen one. So with the flippers, I believe that also, along with the Dark World access, is going to open up East Dark World and the pod area, along with they also have the hammers. So another option for P-Train. There's really kind of a lot in front of them right now that they could do. And as Chad is pointing out, quite a few hearts on both sides as well. Only green mail so far, but obviously the more hearts you have, the more damage you can sustain, and that is always helpful when you run around Hyrule and in these dungeons, especially these Dark World dungeons. P-Train has decided to forego any sort of bomb jumps. It's just going to take the vanilla route to get this big chest here, try to find that second item. Just a small key in there, and they're going to go ahead and death warp out. prieR has opted to start at Sanctuary here. Wonder if we might see them head to... Okay, I was going to say Mountain. I'll admit I was wrong. Let's see where they're headed. So yeah, prieR obviously not heading towards Magic Bat. As we know, that isn't going to be a lift upgrade, which is going to give them Dark World access, which would pretty much put them, you know, back a little closer to kind of where P-Train is right now. Obviously, they're in Dark World, so we want to see them make their way that way. But there also is the chance they could find that second lift upgrade elsewhere. So all is not quite lost. P-Train taking a dip into Thieves Town. Let's see what's inside Thieves Town. Always feels good to take a dip into Thieves Town when you have the hammer, because you don't have that dreaded scenario where you have to leave one item behind, and turns out it was something you really needed. So, gotta feel better about a dip into Thieves Town with the hammer.
Yeah. Now this would normally be an interesting decision where maybe some of the dungeon would be skipped. Having found the fire rod already, but since this is an all dungeon seed, there's no reason to leave. So hammer, full clear on the table, P-Train will be able to get through and just get it done.
And thankfully prieR is in Magic Bat, just about to get that Moon Pearl. Definitely put them on a nice quick pace.
And with that fire rod in Thieves Town, P-Train and prieR, when they catch up, they'll both be able to go straight to Skullwoods, depending on whether or not they find a sword in here. And if not, they can put that off for a little while, but that's another dungeon that'll be able to be cleared as soon as the sword is found.
prieR looks like gonna go ahead and get into the Dark World right away.
Yeah, I'd say there's not much reason to delay it at this point. Just go ahead and get in and start clearing dungeons. And prieR has a sword as well, so that's definitely an advantage. We'll be able to just go straight to Skullwoods afterwards.
Oh, I love the half chime.
Oh yeah, I love when that happens too.
I want to sing it back, but I won't.
That little bit of restraint goes a long way, though.
I'm sure everyone appreciates it. Did you happen to see what that hint said? I missed that.
I'm afraid I did not quite catch that.
Maybe chat can help us out.
Boots at Miner Shed, apparently. So,
okay.
We'll definitely be looking to find mitts and flute as soon as possible and just head straight there.
Yeah, that is a huge hint.
The game always generating a boat sand is a really nice feature, I would say, even if it's sometimes a really vague hint.
Yeah, it's just good to know where that is because we all want to go fast. I mean, we're racing, we're trying to get our personal best every time. Give us an idea where the boots are. Give us that at least, you know.
It has been pointed out that prieR already has mids, but prieR will still need to make their way over and find those at some point.
Right. I might have misspoke something about that earlier. I was thinking about it.
No, that was me. That one was all me. So it looks like prieR's going to be heading off with the maiden and heading into the blind fight soon. Now that red potion could definitely come in handy because while prieR's probably going to be pretty good with hammer blind, that can still be a little scary with just green mail and a few hearts.
Yeah, a lot of people are familiar with the scripted blind fight with a sword. Not as many people know how to do that with a hammer. It's a lot harder to line up those hammer hits than it is to just hold out your sword and let blind run into it. So it's a little bit more of a heads-up battle usually.
prieR looking to go for the known script setup. We'll see if he manages to get it this time.
It looks like they're going to have to do a little bit of improvising, but still handling this very well. And opting to take that red potion. I don't know that they needed that, to be honest, but I can definitely appreciate the safe play.
Same here. I mean, the seed's been throwing plenty of money. There's a good chance that he'll be able to just buy another safety if he does feel he needs it. And it's okay. If you end up getting off script and having to go in and fight hammer blind again, not going to have full health probably. It's going to feel a lot worse. So just go ahead and be sure you get the win.
That's fair. On the other hand, though, I mean, neither one of our runners have paid Zora yet or gotten into Eastern or Digging Game or a lot of other things that require rupees. So there's something to be said for, I mean, they might not have an opportunity to buy potions for quite some time. Hopefully prieR doesn't find themselves in a position where they're wishing they had a red potion, and hopefully I didn't just curse them.
I think it will probably be okay. prieR doesn't have a sword yet, and the scariest fight on the table at the moment is Mothula. So with no sword, chances are more safeties will be found before he heads back up there. Meanwhile, prieR showing the sword script version and having a very smooth fight.
Yeah, the one that we know and love. And as you mentioned, Pendant Thieves Town, not a big deal at all because we got to do them all anyway. So chalk that up as a one in the win tally.
Perhaps in all dungeons mode, the pendants themselves are made of crystal. That could be the case.
Yeah, I like that. prieR gonna give us a peek at Hype Cave. Let's see what the 1 out of 10 rating is for this Hype Cave.
I'm preemptively giving it a 7 out of 10.
Okay, I'm gonna. Well, it's too late because we already saw the first one. Yeah, that's probably like a 2. That 2 if I'm being generous.
Well, I said 7, so I gotta stick with it even if I'm wrong.
Meanwhile, prieR finds the books, so that's going to be helpful.
And yeah, that could be interesting. That could lead to a number of possibly advantageous checks, though sometimes the book's just a big waste of time.
Well, as of right now, we don't have a mirror, so if we wanted to do deserts, the only way we could get in there. So, but as you know, we will find the mirror eventually because we have to do swamp. So.
Now we can see with these current routing checks, prieR is putting off Skullwoods for a little bit, which is understandable with only the fiber sword, hammer, no half magic. Putting that off makes a little bit of sense, especially with the density of Hive Cave coming.
Yeah, it's good to know when it makes sense for you to be able to do it. You know, there may be some runners who wouldn't even think twice about it, and if they're in the area, they would do it. But it's a lot more practical, I think, to know kind of what you can get away with and what you're comfortable with. And I know for me, it's not something I could probably pull off. So definitely can respect waiting for the right moment for that.
prieR's definitely the kind of capable runner that can do it, but it also makes a lot more sense to just focus on density first, especially with information on where the boots are going to be. The sooner you find those, the faster you can get other stuff done, and getting one dungeon done right now with low item count inside, not necessarily going to pay off as much, and if you come back later, the Mothula fight could end up being a lot faster with better weaponry.
That is a good point. prieR gonna dip into Hive Cave and get their magic boomerang. prieR getting the hammer out, heading over to East Dark World. This will either be a pyramid and catfish kind of combo, or they'll head to pod. Yeah, it looks like the pyramid is going to be up next for them. ₹50 on the pyramid. prieR's not going to waste the time to go grab it.
Yeah, there are spots where a little extra money can be nice, but at this point, it's looking like they're probably not going to have to go out of their way to get money, so it makes sense to just leave it.
Yeah, that one's kind of a toss-up in my book, but it is a race after all, so anywhere you can cut down on some time spent makes sense. P-Train finally gets their Titan's Mitts from the mini Moldorm Cave. Oh, I'm reading in chat. prieR didn't read the hint in Thieves Town, so he doesn't know where the boots are. So that obviously changes the way that they're approaching things here.
Oh yeah, that definitely changes that a little bit. I feel that what I said about Skullwoods, still stand by that. In this situation, prieR is still fairly wise to just focus on density, especially in an all dungeons scenario. And it looks like prieR is going to try and press that book advantage and go ahead and head over to Desert Palace. So we'll be seeing a few new checks here.
Yeah, we may or may not get to see the 2 items in Desert Palace, possibly 1. We'll also get a Gina here in a moment, and we'll have that Desert Ledge to check too. prior just finding some bombs in Agina's cave.
Not the best find there, but at least it's a little bit of a refund. Not a single arrow.
A refund plus 2 bombs, so they're not like a bandit. And definitely agree with going over to make that check of that ledge. And some people will not check that and then just go through Desert Palace and just walk down and get it, or check it while they're up there. I think it is better to just take a quick nod over there like they did and check it, see if all that's going to be necessary or not.
It's absolutely better to check the ledge. I believe it was a triple bomb up on the ledge there just now, and if prior hadn't checked that, then they would end up walking all the way down, and that's a waste of time. Just take that little peek first and get out of the way.
And there we have the hook shot in Desert Palace, so that play is absolutely paid off.
Yeah, that is a really nice find. That early soul hammer peg play, that was a little bold, but prior got rewarded pretty well for it.
Yeah, the hint, not too helpful. It said that there was some cash in Ganon's tower. Okay. But yeah, that... Oh, okay, so the hook shot was over there. And we had the... was that the... There was a unique item on
that is, in fact, the flute on the
flute.
Yes. So, P-Train's going to be able to get the boots.
Well, how about that?
This could end up being a very interesting scenario because prior has found the hook shot, and that's a little bit remote, out of the way feeling. And meanwhile, P-Train knows where the boots are and has access to them right now. So this is going to be fairly tough to tell who has the advantage for a while.
Yeah, I think you're right. Prior obviously is going to need the flippers to be able to go get that flute too, and they haven't found those yet, although they are in Skull Woods, so that's coming up.
So P-Train's on the way to be activating the flute. Meanwhile, prior is heading into Skull Woods. Is going to be finishing that off before too long.
Yeah, and you have to imagine prior is just going to go ahead and take on Mothula. There's plenty of hearts. Got the fire rod. I think that they're going to just go ahead and do it now.
A potential big deal here in terms of how much an advantage will the boots be. Prior can still access a number of things. Though Mountain is not in logic for him yet, he will be able to go up there through a sequence break, doing the Dark Rune to get to the mountain. We'll be able to do all those checks thanks to Hookshot and Mitts. It could be a while before he feels he has any reason to head up towards the Zora check. And the same could be true of P-Train and the Hammer Pegs, so this could be very interesting.
You almost have to wonder if maybe Prior could find a mirror and that would prompt them to do, that catfish check and then loop in the Zora area along with that.
Yeah, where the progression is locked is going to really tell us a lot about who's going to be advantaged here.
Oh, sorry, Prior did catfish already, so that makes it even less likely that they're gonna be up there. So
yeah, definitely will eventually. At some point, they're gonna get progression locked, but we just don't know when.
Fortunately, there's a lot that they can continue to accomplish as they work their way over there. As we can see right now, getting another crystal under their belt by finishing off Mothula here, or at least coming up and trying to finish off Mothula. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, there are also other considerations that could come into play just because of the fact that the runners are thinking here. prieR might decide that they don't want to get out of sequence to begin with, and they just decide to keep following the logic, and then they find everything. Really, it really depends on what calls are made. So we see prieR using both hammer and fire rod to just get a lot of damage in on Mahula very quickly.
Yeah, excellent fight by prieR. Very, very good job of avoiding all of the spikes on the treadmill and keeping his cool and finally finishing off Mahula with enough hammer hits. Also nailed every single fire rod hit that they had available to do, so excellent fight.
Yeah, getting in those hammer hits on Mahula can be a lot harder than it looks, so that really just shows that prieR is a very skilled runner.
Yeah, and as you saw, they were sort of going up a little bit above Mahula's sprite and doing it that way. That makes it a little easier to see exactly where the hammer is going to hit on the sprite, since it can be kind of tough with the hammer to ascertain that sometimes. Meanwhile, prieR still no sword. Finally has those boots and unfortunately having to dash around without the sword out and then running into enemies like that, and that's a bummer. So hopefully they'll find a sword very soon here.
So it did turn out that the silver arrows were in Skull Woods under the bridge, so that'll be nice to have. Chances are both runners are going to get that though, so that's not a huge deal in terms of advantage, but always nice to have.
Yeah, that'll make some of the bosses quite a bit faster. Vitreous being one, Armos Knight to a certain extent. Not that that was a super, slow fight either way, but as you said, good to have and can really trivialize some of these boss fights.
So prieR going to be picking up that sword.
Good.
With the way things are going right now, it looks like their routes might end up converging very quickly. If prieR decides to go ahead and go to Skull Woods, we'll probably end up getting the hammer pegs done. So this could end up just evening back out very quickly.
Yeah, it looks like prieR will probably make this check up to the sword area now, which is good, and then collect their flute. They're going to have to go activate that, then make their way to Meyer, but I don't think it seems like something they probably would get to sooner rather than later.
Yeah, this just serves to show that prieR did read this situation well, had the option to head up to the mountain, but decided to stay in logic to find that necessary progression item and not potentially end up with a disadvantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, as it turns out, everything up there actually will have been within logic, after we get this flute. So sequence breaking up there wouldn't have really broken things too much. But of course, prieR didn't know that.
It's not the breaking of the sequence that is a potential problem, but rather that if prieR had made that choice and found more progression up on the mountain, then that could have led him to not check and find the flute or the boots for some time.
Yeah, okay, I gotcha. That's true. prieR coming up on their Mahula fight here soon. Looks like it might be another nail biter just based on the amount of magic and items that they have. So let's see how they do.
Now, it is being pointed out with regards to prieR's routing that not knowing where the boots are, they might not immediately go check the Meyer shed, but I imagine it won't be too long before they do.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Once you get the flute, it's really quick to just flute to 6 and go grab those 2 chests. Check what pendant's going to be required for Meyer what medallion is going to be required for Meyer. It's all pretty quick, so I see them going there pretty quickly. prieR did get a magic refill there, certainly helped, and takes down Mahula very well.
Yeah, prieR is definitely not trying to hoard the safeties tonight, just putting them to good use to make sure these fights go down clean.
Okay, let's see what prieR does with flute. Right,
shocks us all. Flutes to 8,
go.
goes to Ice Palace.
That would have been something. Yeah, so they are going to be pleasantly surprised to find these boots in here, considering they didn't get that same hint that prieR had.
Yeah, prieR definitely saying, hints who needs them.
Yep, routing. That's my weapon of choice.
So with that, any potential advantage prieR has, at the moment at least, has definitely evaporated away, but prieR not too far behind, and they're going to run out of checks before too long, so it'll just depend on when and how they make that play.
Yeah, both runners have the same bosses completed. In terms of items, there's nothing prieR has that prieR doesn't, so you're right. In terms of a advantage like that, it's going to have to be prieR, but still quite a bit of randomizer to be played.
Yep, definitely wouldn't be calling it right now. It'll be interesting to see where prieR in particular right now goes. There are a number of options. Hera can be done. Desert can be finished. Ice Palace, that's a possible play, probably not the play that's going to be chosen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Obviously they can all do their IPPJs. They've got hookshot, flippers, the Titan's mitts. You've got your fire rod. Plenty of bottles, so you could bring some green goo or some blue goo. I could see an Ice Palace play coming in, sooner rather than later. I guess it remains to be seen, but certainly on the table.
If I had to guess, if no other items came out to change prieR's mind about anything, we'll probably see all the mountain checks, and then after that, maybe desert, and then Ice Palace, and then who knows from there. But with just the sheer density of items, I imagine some kind of route changer is going to come up in the next few minutes.
Yeah, we've got 8 items on East Death Mountain alone, and then we've got what's in here as well. So you're absolutely right. I think we'll probably see something here that'll change the tides one way or another. Now, unfortunately, prieR is doing Eastern right now. As we know, nothing too useful in there, and obviously not able to complete that dungeon either. prieR just had a joke hint there, nothing too useful. So prieR is not really making a lot of progress right now. We know. Of course, they don't know that. Okay, let's see what is in Paradox Cave. Paradox
Cave, always exciting.
Yeah,
I'm giving this a 7 out of 10.
Okay, we'll see if you get your 7. So far, just bombs. Gotta love the hook shot for killing the mini Moldorms, but when you miss from across the room, it can be a while before you get that thing back.
So it might seem I missed my mark again on these Paradox Cave checks, but I said I'd give it a 7, not necessarily out of 10, and there are 7 chests in there, so technically I was right.
You were giving it a how many chests does it have rating, not a hypeness rating. Well, maybe Spiral will have something for us. Just a shield on the floating island. Can't imagine we're gonna make time for that. Oh, okay. prieR's gonna go and check the what's in Hera, I would imagine, and probably this what's the word I'm trying to think of? Tablet?
Yeah, and that's the play that prieR definitely wants to make here, because with no mirror, going to Dark World first, you'd get stuck, have to save and quit, and then hookshot over and come all the way back.
Yeah, and for some reason I couldn't think of the word tablet, but the tablet just had a mail upgrade. Do you think we could see him go over and get that if we say, you know, found the Master Sword here in Hera? Do you think they would make a trip for that?
There's a chance that they might. On the other hand, with 13 hearts and potentially wanting to save as much time as possible, a runner of prieR's skill might just decide to leave it.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. With the lamp in Tower of Hera.
The lamp would be up there, wouldn't it?
Right where you need it, yeah. prieR just bopping him right into the pits with the hook shot.
So prieR, meanwhile, is bowlocked after checking the first chest in Pod and is heading down anyway, potentially to check the hint. If they have a potion, might be opening it using the potion glitch.
Unique item in Turtle Rock. That's not particularly helpful, but I would definitely have that in the back of my mind.
I just know it's going to be the single arrow.
So there's the Master Sword in Hera, just as I had theorized. So I guess we'll see if they go get that mail or not.
That is kind of interesting that you called that potential item, and there it was.
Not the first time I've done something like that. I have guessed against Tower Big Key on comps before. But anyway, that's cool. I'm interested to see if they make that play. Right now, let's see how they handle Moldorm. Easy.
Yep, just getting those 3 spin slashes in, and boom.
And the green pendant, so when they head over to Pod, hopefully they'll have the mirror at that point, and they can go ahead and turn that in and see what it gets them.
Now, it is a little unfortunate. There's not much in terms of potential progression that is likely to be found in this bowlock section of Pod, since it can't be the bow. That will make the route much faster for prieR. The exceptions being, if Ice Rod happens with bow in Turtle Rock, then that could save time. Or if Cane of Samaria is here, then that could help if bow is in Mire.
So prieR opted to forsake that mail upgrade. As you said, just trying to make up as much time as possible. Feels confident in the heart level that they're not going to need that extra protection.
Yeah, and I believe that prieR probably going to show us that that was the right call. I like it. In Randomizer, sometimes the best move is to bet on yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, I would have taken it, but I'm also not in this tournament, so that, you know, I have all the faith in prieR that they can pull this off, and I think that was a very calculated play, and they know exactly what they're doing.
I wanted to point out just a moment ago, prieR did a very nice job walking around that mini Helmosaur. That is a little bit of... That's a little scary to do. Sometimes feel like it's going to turn and just knock you off the bridge.
Yeah, that's a time waste and embarrassing. prieR showed us what's in Hookshot Cave. Nothing too exciting so far. And culminates with the Ice Rod. We're going to need that.
Yep, need it in every single all dungeon seed. That's for sure.
That's right.
And that's a pretty good place to find it. Pretty much neither runner has to worry about being trolled by it at this point.
And we have our bow in Super Bunny Cave, prieR57 picking up the bow.
So in this case, with just the way these items have come out, prieR now has a fairly large advantage. And it does seem like prieR is heading over to go ahead and check Spike Cave before finishing everything out. With full magic and the blue cane, this is going to go nice and smooth.
Yeah, no issues. And the hook shot to help zip around a little bit. It's always nice to be able to finish your Death Mountain checks, light and dark, with a final Spike Cave, because you want to do a save and quit after, because you're left with no health. So it's the sign of a well-routed Death Mountain when you're able to do that.
So prieR now is in a fairly nice position of being able to finish an additional 4 more dungeons. Pod, Eastern Palace, Desert Palace, and Ice Palace can all be full cleared at this point. So there's a lot of freedom for where to go next.
Yeah, looks like they're doing Pod.
And that's the sensible thing to do. By density, that's got a lot. You have to do it anyway, so go ahead and get it done.
Now, I will say, maybe they're hoping that they find the mirror in Pod, but I might have gone up and turned in my green pendant. What do you think?
I get the feeling I'd probably consider turning it in first, but once again, by density, it kind of makes sense not to.
Yeah, I mean, it's more likely that there's nothing there, right? That's true of most checks in Randomizer, but you went through all the trouble to get it, and now you're here in the neighborhood. Yeah, but you know, there's also a chance it's nothing. So.
It's also one of those minor things where if Sahasrara doesn't specifically have the mirror, nothing is really going to make these next couple dungeons faster other than that. And so, yeah, you end up thinking, well, if I'm probably going to just have to save and quit, go to Eastern, go ahead and do that, and then you can hop off the ledge and just head right over and turn it in at the very end of all that. It makes a lot of sense.
GTG, did you see what P-Train just did?
That was a beautiful hover across that gap. That
Commendable.
was amazing.
Commendable. P-Train has got the rhythm. So prieR is going to give us a little bit more pod than we were able to see before with these two bow-locked checks. I don't believe P-Train checked that, if I'm not mistaken. Well, even if we had seen them, it was just 2 keys, so...
And it seems like P-Train's finally going to be getting back on track here, heading down to do these Smith checks. And finally, we'll be doing hammer pegs and getting the Book of Medora.
So yeah, we were talking about earlier how the book may or may not be useless, but we still have not seen the mirror in this seed, so book is the only way into Desert Palace in that situation, and that is, you know, as we know, going to give P-Train the hookshot. P-Train getting some frustration out in the form of some slashes while they wait for the duck. Okay, I'm seeing prieR did do that bottle glitch and saw that Bullock here, so I apologize. I must have missed that.
Seeing the speculation of Smith having mirror, that would be really...
That would
I'd
be
find
fun.
it pretty funny, but it would be fairly interesting as well.
Oh, wow! That's the mirror.
How about that? See, this is one of those things about randomizers. Sometimes it can be so hard to really tell who has an advantage because it can just burn away in an instant. prieR probably not going to be checking that for a while unless a hint tells him where it is.
Now, to go back to something you were saying earlier, in a lot of ways, you know, having the mirror is going to lead them to check more places that the hook shot isn't. So, you know, eventually they will get to that hook shot, but it's going to lead them down a different path, like you said. So definitely be interesting to see, you know, how this is going to make them both stack up in the long scheme of things.
Yeah, prieR currently a little behind in terms of overall progression, but that mirror is a big advantage. It really depends, though. Like I was saying, there are going to be 3 hints in Ice Palace. That could very well point out something for prieR. Even if it's something like a unique item is locked by a specialist, prieR is going to finish those checks. But on the other hand, if there is no hint, prieR could end up checking a lot of other places first.
Yeah, so prieR got their tempered sword in the dark maze, did a little bit of work to set up a death warp, and now they're going to check the big chest here. prieR having a little trouble picking up that chest. Okay, they got it. prieR about to make a visit to the specialist to see what's inside.
Meanwhile, on prieR's side, going to be heading on towards Helmasaur. Now, with the lamp, the turtle rooms are going to present no problems whatsoever. Especially with that tempered sword, just nothing to worry about.
Yeah, having to do this one in the dark is a real bummer. prieR, however, has it down to a science. Looks like they could have done that in the dark with no problems.
Yeah, that was beautiful execution. No way anyone could be feeling bad about that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch this back, study that tape. prieR getting 17 hammer hits in on Helmasaur King, and finishing it off with Silver Arrow. Meanwhile, prieR finds the second mail upgrade on Checkerboard Cave.
Yeah, and prieR are going to go ahead and pick it up, which that's a much shorter check than running across the bridge for the tableau again, so might as well. And safety's never hurt anybody.
Quite the opposite, in fact.
Yep. prieR, meanwhile, has just finished off a very nice Helmasaur fight, just getting that Silver Arrow after breaking off the mask, and we'll be moving on, probably saving quitting, and then heading off to Eastern Palace.
Now that we're back into Desert Palace with the boots, we can finish this one out. Check that second item. And P-Train finds the second item, just a shield upgrade. Well, I say just, I mean, it's nice to have the fire shield. It will help out a little bit, you know, it'll block some fireballs. Even, you know, coming up here on Land Molest, it can be useful, but not going to help them beat the game, which is their overall goal, clearing all the dungeons.
With everything they've already done and everything they still have to do, I'd say the best use case for the fire shield at this point is going to be blocking that one fireball shooter in Misery Mire. I think any NMG runner knows the one.
You're talking about the one in the dark?
I'm talking about the one on the way to the left side rooms. That one, if you just get a little bit out of sync with it, it just loves to shoot you while you're dashing down.
Yeah, that one has a knack for hitting you.
And of course, the more obvious use case of Aghanim 2, any of those blue balls just get blocked pretty easily.
Yeah, although that's easy enough to dodge either way. So we've got two light world bosses going on here. They're both going to be pretty quick. prieR's already done with their Armos Knight. P-Train will get this one finished up in one more cycle. Yep, there it is.
So finally finding one medallion, the Ether Medallion, that takes us a step closer to Turtle Rock being in play. Now I'm kind of wondering, what are the odds of the Quake Medallion from Mire being the Go Mode item tonight?
They're not, I mean, they're pretty high because we pretty much know where everything else is that we need to be in Go Mode. You know, it's really that. Cane. Yeah, that or the Red Cane would be Go Mode, or, you know, Bombos, I guess, could also be, depending on what we got on Turtle Rock. Or, I'm sorry, no, we already know Turtle Rock, yeah. So, yeah, it could definitely be Quake. It's really that or Red Cane.
Now, this is interesting. prieR's heading into Ice Palace right now, but seems to have skipped the Green Pendant turn. And I'm trying to remember, was there a hint about that?
I did see someone mention in chat, one of the Hera hints said that a unique item was on Green Pendant, so maybe even lends a little bit more credence to what we were talking about earlier. When dipping into Pod, maybe that was the time to check that. If it is indeed a unique item and it's one of those two Go Mode items that we're still looking for, obviously they're going to get to it eventually, but yeah, I can't help but think that could have been a good time to do it, you know?
Yeah, that could potentially be a big deal. prieR right now is ahead on dungeon count, but depending on what items come out and when he goes and gets that mirror, that could end up changing before too long. But execution definitely not being the problem here. prieR is playing pretty much spot on, just getting through this Ice Palace in a snap.
Yeah, it looks like they might have accidentally skipped a hint there.
I don't think it's an accident. I think prieR's just decided, I've already skipped a hint, I'm just going to keep going.
Okay.
Because prieR didn't read the first hint either.
I don't know. I think you got to read those hints. You know? I mean, there's already been some really, really helpful ones in this seed alone. I don't think you want to skip those. That's just me. Maybe P-Train will read them and we'll see if they would have made a difference. Kind of try to take a snapshot of where prieR's, you know, what prieR's situation is right now and see if it would have been useful to them to know it. But yeah, knowledge is power in Randomizer. It's good to know where things are.
I'm seeing it pointed out in chat that prieR's thinking might be, since it's an all dungeon run, just don't waste time reading the hints and just keep going, since chances are you're going to end up going just about everywhere anyway.
Yeah, but somewhere like Graveyard Ledge, you know, it'd be nice to know what's there.
Or even not that, just things like knowing left side swamp isn't worth your time or is worth your time. That can be really valuable.
Exactly.
So now prieR does have the bow, knows that the double dip was very avoidable. Possibly he feels a little bit behind right now, but definitely still is riding that mirror advantage. And we are going to get to see the prieR's just having a little bit of a better spot with routing for the mountain. Not going to have to go to Hare and then come back over thanks to that mirror.
Yeah, that's true. They can take a bit of a more direct route, whereas prieR had to go around.
Yeah, and so with that Ice Rod picked up, other than the Tempered Sword and Ether Medallion, prieR just about caught up in items, and after Hare will probably be catching up very quickly.
prieR making use of the iframes with the hook shot to avoid the Lionel fire. That was pretty slick.
And prieR going to be getting the red mail for sure, because there's no reason not to check the Ether Tablet.
Yeah, so definitely going to have an advantage in terms of sheer defense over prieR. But again, prieR's execution has been very strong, and they definitely know what they're doing. So.
Yeah, I'm imagining we're about to see a quite quick cold stare fight from prieR right here. Just not going to be a problem even a little bit. I know. Unfortunately, Cold Stare did get away a little bit with that initial spin, being just slightly mistimed, but those spin slashes were put to good use and the Cold Stare went down fairly quickly.
Yeah, no real danger of losing the match, so all good there. So where to next for prieR?
So I'd just like to point out something from a couple of rooms ago. prieR in that Crystal Switch room in Hera hit the Crystal Switch and slashed the enemy, knocking it into the pit at the same time. That was really impressive looking.
Yeah, very cool. prieR looks like is going to head to Desert. Still doesn't have that mirror, so using the book to get in.
Yeah, and that's totally a wise choice. Just go ahead and clear what you can while you can.
Yep, keep checking items along the way. Maybe you find more, those go mode items that you need. Absolutely. And then if you have to check some more light world, dark world checks that are kind of out of the way, then cross that bridge when you get to it. But you're going to be in these locations anyways. You know that there's items here. Just go ahead and do things you know you need to do.
Now, I'm trying to think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure if there are even all too many places that prieR can even check after this, so we'll probably be heading to Smith. We know that prieR is not going to find Canis Amaria and go into Turtle Rock looking for Mirror, so unless I'm just not thinking of a few things, chances are prieR will be getting the Mirror fairly soon.
Yeah, I can't think of too many places that checks that we haven't seen.
However, if an important item is on the green pendant, finding that mirror could even prove to be a bit of an unpleasant surprise.
So, of course, there is always potential that Misery Mire could have the cane in it.
It's been pointed out that certainly we haven't seen Graveyard Ledge check but we're talking about places that prieR can get to without the mirror, and there are a few places that, while unchecked, prieR can't get there right now.
You know, it's nice to take advantage of having full health and a Master Sword or higher, being able to shoot those beams. They're usually just kind of like extra, maybe even kind of annoying, but there are occasions such as some of these murder rooms where it can really speed things up for you. You don't have to get out another item, you just have a projectile, and it really makes things speedy.
Now, one interesting possibility is if prieR turns in the green pendant before going to the smith, and that ends up being progression as well. That could end up leading prieR further away from the mirror.
Yeah, especially if it's the red cane, because they're probably going to do Mire and Turtle Rock before they come back and do that smith chain.
Yeah, can't do Mire yet, but if, say, Quake ends up being in TR, that could be an issue.
True. Okay, so the green pendant just had the cape. Now, there could be something on Bumper Cave. I don't believe we've seen that. We could have Quake on Bumper Cave.
Yeah, I'm guessing we probably won't see that just yet, because there's so much more prieR can be doing. On the other hand, it does look like prieR's going over there, so prieR might go ahead and head straight for Bumper Cave.
Yeah, going to Kakariko. Looks like going up to Dark World. Yeah, looks like they might just be making a beeline to Bumper Cave.
On the other hand, prieR could potentially grab the frog first, run up to Bumper Cave, and then just save and quit if that's not it.
True. No, straight to Bumper Cave. I wouldn't be surprised if they come down and handle the smith chain after this, though.
Yeah, both ways to do this are perfectly fine.
And just a heart. Okay, so nothing locked behind that green pendant. Remains to be seen if prieR will make the effort to check that. It's going to depend on sort of where they're at from an item's perspective.
I think chances are prieR's not going to go out of their way to check that unless they have a need to, and at this point, progression pretty much has to be in Swamp Palace.
Yeah, that's right. prieR was almost able to clean up those turtles, just had to flip one of them back over, but also really nice execution on a pretty tough room there. Phil Bringer in chat asked if pet has been checked. I do not believe we've seen a pet check, which is surprising because we've had the book for a while.
There's just never been a good chance to route it in. Both runners lacked mirror when they went over to Skullwoods, so there's just never really been a good time for it, especially the way this seed has played out. There's always been something better to check.
That's true. But looking at our pendants right now, it could definitely have progression.
Yeah, since there's a medallion still needed, Ped pretty much isn't dead until we find that.
If I'm not mistaken, it could also have the red cane, right?
Yes, there's no reason that wouldn't be possible. Either of our remaining items could be there. So prieR finally getting the smith is going to probably feel a little frustrated turning in that mirror, but still is going to be about a dungeon and a half ahead.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. You know, I have seen some frustration slashes, and I don't know if that's just something that they do because they're kind of high on adrenaline right now and just, you know, active, or if that's a window into kind of how they're feeling about the seed if they're frustrated. I would guess that, you know, it's probably more the former rather than the latter. But
this entire area of the map, with both the hammer pegs and the smith having stuff that can get you into Desert Palace, that's been really interesting. prieR went over and did the hammer pegs early, and that ended up leading him away from the mirror, whereas prieR put it off and got the mirror sooner.
That's rando for you. So prieR is finally going to take us inside of Swamp Palace. This is the first time we've seen either of our runners head in there. And prieR, of course, skipping that hint as they have been through the past few dungeons, just not interested in hearing what it has to say.
Yeah, I mean, with the level of map full clearing being so close to how it is at this point, there's really no reason to check a hint now. The worst that could happen is maybe Kane's on Graveyard Ledge, and then Myra gets double dipped or something, but it's not too likely to be a problem.
I mean, it's hard to argue with their approach because, as we've said, they are sort of ahead right now, so it's whatever they're doing that's working for them, you know?
Yeah, now, here's a situation where prieR could make up some time. If prieR decides to go to Swamp Palace first and finish that out, finds progression, and potentially even reaches Go Mode in the near future, could end up getting to Go Mode Ice Palace. However, whether or not that actually happens remains to be seen.
Yeah, we do have quite a few items available in Swamp Palace. There's 6 of them, but you would basically have to have the two Go Mode items that we're looking for right now in there. You'd have to have Quake and Red Cane both in Swamp Palace in order for prieR to be able to take advantage of, you know, a Go Mode Ice Palace. But like you said, you know, it seems like it's been, you know, Swamp Palace does kind of feel like it's sort of been a bottleneck because there's such a high concentration of items and there's not a lot of locations left to check, you know?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but does it seem that prieR is about to try and open up Turtle Rock and head in without the Cane of Samaria? Could this be an attempt at a hover play of Turtle Rock?
You know, you could be right about that.
If he goes for this and this works out, that would be... I wouldn't even know what to say.
That's a long hover. They might just be checking the hint, but everybody get ready to maybe see a show.
I mean, I can't imagine coming up here to check the hint when you can clear Ice Palace and Swamp, so something really bold might be about to happen here.
They're thinking about it. I know they were thinking about it.
Based on the menu and the slashes that happened before that, though, I'm thinking what happened is they forgot they didn't have the Cane of Samaria.
Oh, that's probably more likely, isn't it? It's just that we've seen prieR hover, you know, so it kind of made me think that they might be going for it, you know.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. That can happen, though.
It is possible.
Races are very high pressure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I can understand why they wouldn't want to do it, absolutely, but I think it's worth noting that it is possible to do that, so it's kind of interesting. And we've got our first check of Ice Palace here, prieR. We've seen all of this, of course, but... On the right-hand side, prieR will be coming up on some new checks here soon. We're really looking for our 2 Go Mode items, Quake and the Cane of Samaria.
Yeah, now, it's still possible that it might just end up being a bust on Swamp Palace, too, and end up with something like a Bombos tablet, even.
I'm thinking that we'll get one of them. Either Quake or the Red Cane. That's my guess. Okay, so we have a big key, so might need to come back and check that. I haven't been keeping track of items, if I'm being honest, so I don't know if that is a possibility or not yet, but I have to imagine they'll probably come back and check that if there is still an item left. What do you think?
I don't think I saw prieR do the left side swamp play, and I don't believe we've seen prieR check a hint about that, so going back inside, that's almost certain to be on the cards.
Yeah, for sure.
So at this point, if you're either of these racers, it being the All Dungeon seed, even not having read it, maybe having a better check in play, do you go and just pull the pedestal for fun?
If I'm not in Go Mode and I have all 3 pendants, I wouldn't call it for fun. I would call it like, I want to know what's on it. Like, it could very well be a Go Mode item. I think I'd absolutely check it, yeah. So chat's saying that prieR has already checked the left side. That must have just gone by real quick and been very uneventful if so. So I guess they're maybe just coming back to get the big chest.
Yeah, I'm sorry for making that little error there. I think I got a little caught up in what I thought was going to be a TR hover play.
Yeah, who can blame us, right? And nothing in Swamp Palace. How about that? Total bust.
So it's really got to be either pedestal, Bombos tablet, or graveyard ledge now.
Okay, well, fortunately, Bombos tablet's nice and close, so we'll check that one now.
Now, what it'd probably just feel, it wouldn't cost much time, but if it was something like Cane on the Bombos tablet leading to Turtle Rock, which then doesn't have Quake, and then you have to go get Quake on pedestal, that would just be silly. But that's not even the case here.
Yeah, Bombos tablet had nothing, so we're down to just a couple checks really here, and one of them being the pet, so...
Yeah, so it's a 50-50 pedestal chance at the moment.
prieR getting ready to take on Cold Stare. Shouldn't have any problems with that, with the amount of hearts and mail that they have. Plenty of magic as well, so it should be nice and simple.
Now, prieR's going to be... I don't know, if you're prieR, which do you do first?
I would say ped. I mean, it just makes sense to, you know, go up the woods, mirror to ped, check that, and then go over and do graveyard, at least to me, instead of having to double back. you know, and go back in this direction again. So.
Oh, and it does seem that prieR's going to be checking the bat first. Upon reflection, I think we have not in fact seen that. And prieR is turning in the purple chest, which he had not done yet, though we know that's nothing.
We have seen the bat. The bat was Moon Pearl.
Okay. Oh, you're right. That was super early.
That was like a year ago. So prieR's about to find their first male upgrade. Have to wonder if they're going to take the time to get it.
Leaving that other one behind, maybe not. Hasn't had any execution errors that have made it look like it would be important.
Yeah, they went for it.
That's fair enough, though.
Yeah, that one's considerably less time than it would have been to, you know, run over and check that tablet. So I guess I can see it. You know, you're already there, and you have the mirror to despawn all those blocks. A little bit extra security never hurt.
I do appreciate the call in chat to pick up the red mail before going into GT, just so we get to finally see Santa. It is about that time of year.
Yeah, it's a shame. I can't imagine they'll do that. It's so close yet so far.
So it is pedestal hype time.
Let's see what it is.
Heads or tails?
And there's the red cane.
It seems like Canis Amaria on pedestal is just something that likes to happen sometimes, huh?
It is not the first time I've seen that. So there you have it, folks. Officially a PED seed. And with that, prieR is just one item away from being in go mode. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not true because they still need to find Quake and the red cane. We know where it is because... Oh, I'm sorry. We just don't have it marked on our tracker yet, I believe.
prieR just got the red cane.
Right,
I was going to say.
Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, we're just looking for Quake now. You have to imagine it. There's a pretty good chance it could be in Misery Mire, right? Or in Turtle Rock, that is.
By pure density, Quake is very likely to be in either Mimic Cave or Turtle Rock. Obviously, it can't be in Mire, or else we wouldn't need it in the first place. It still could be on Graveyard Ledge, though. But I prefer prieR's play of just going up here. Turtle Rock has to be cleared anyway. A full clear versus go moding it is not that much of a time difference. And if it ends up being Graveyard Ledge, then it's not too much trouble to go back compared to running over to the portal from the Lost Woods. So
yeah, I would
just go ahead and get it.
Yeah, you already have to be here. I would much rather just full clear this and look for it in here.
This certainly has really been an interesting sequence, just yanking both runners all around everywhere. You can see neither of these runners have had any major execution problems throughout this run. It's just come down to who's made what checks and when.
Yeah, it has been really interesting. Just a lot of diversion. There's a ton of diversion in this seed. There was almost always two different things going on at once.
So I'm wondering if prieR might just go ahead and skip the big chest and swamp to try to make up for some time after that Turtle Rock climb.
It is possible. As we know, that would be the right play, but it can be tough to leave one behind like that when you're not in go mode and you're already here, and it takes so long to open up swamp again. I wouldn't be surprised to see them check it. So prieR now has access to go check PED. We'll have to see how long it is before they make that check though.
I'm much appreciating all the chat commentary about the forgetfulness about the Canis Amaria, but you understand sometimes the race, the pressure gets to you even as a commentator, and you see an item come out of the pedestal and you think, well, what if they put it back?
Honestly, when you're looking so hard at both screens, it gets really easy to conflate what happened to what person. That's been my difficulty. So I promise I will try to do a better job of keeping track of what is going on which screen. So, do you know why prieR didn't check Mimic Cave?
Well, it definitely wouldn't be because of a hint. Probably, if I had to say, it might just be a gamble.
Yeah, sort of surprising. That is a very costly check. It takes quite a while to get in there, kill all those mimics, and eventually get that item. Obviously, it's better to not do that if you can get away with it, but as we've been saying, not a whole lot of places left to check, and we still have to find Quake before we can put this one to bed.
Yep, either that, or we're going to see prieR open the menu, we're going to see the Quake medallion sitting there, and we're going to be asking, when did that happen?
Yeah.
Okay, no Quake medallion.
Here we have Laser Bridge, and there's Quake medallion. So at 1 hour 33 minutes and about 42 seconds or so, prieR57 is in go mode.
Just goes to show you can always skip Mimic Cave.
You heard it here first, folks. You can always skip Mimic Cave.
If you ever lose a race, because of that choice, then you know who to blame.
Yeah. prieR coming up on Trinex. See how they do. Pretty easy with that butter sword, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it doesn't even need to really bother going with the back strats, just gets it cleaned up.
Mm-hmm. And prieR did just pull PED, so they've got their red cane.
Do they?
I have to imagine it's only... Yep. Only matter of time before who could say who has what, really, you know?
Maybe the real go mode is the friends we made along the way. So with that, prieR's going to be heading off to Meyer, and that'll be fairly quick depending on where that big key ends up being. And from there, it'll be time for GT and then Aga 1.
That's right.
That's the nice thing about All Dungeons mode. Those who root for Aga 1 always get it.
Too bad we couldn't get that dark Aga 1. So prieR57, this room is just so much easier when you have all of your health and you can shoot sword beams around. Too bad they don't have just 2 more hearts to really clean that room up nice and quickly. prieR unfortunately not able to find that big key in either of the 2 quick chests there. Doesn't get the God Mire or the Demigod Mire, so they're gonna keep searching.
Yep, doesn't... sometimes the dream just doesn't show up for you, but...
Yeah, there was that shooter you were talking about. Actually did manage to connect with prieR. It's like you called it from like an hour ago.
Yeah, that fireball just loves to be a problem. Even with the fire shield, sometimes it just smacks you anyway. I want to say that part of the practice hack is called Beat the Fireball.
And there's our Mire big key.
Yeah,
so other than... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that prieR didn't waste time checking the torch room, so that's a nice little time save just playing the odds there.
Yeah, absolutely. So other than the Ganon's Tower big key, that's pretty much it for looking for stuff. You know, it's pretty much all execution from here on out.
Yep, though now we'll still get to wonder for a few moments more whether prieR will decide to mirror before GT and pick up that red mail so Santa can visit Hyrule. Probably not. I would guess prieR will commit and just not get it.
Maybe if we're all extra good, we'll be visited by Link Santa. So while prieR is making their way to Vitreous here, and P-Train is making their way through Turtle Rock, just wanted to mention everyone should go ahead and give these runners a follow if you're enjoying watching the race. Both P-Train and prieR57. Go ahead and give those guys a follow. P-Train is checking Mimic Cave, so that is going to slow him down a little bit. But as I said before, I definitely wouldn't fault them for making that check because there's just as high of a chance that they could find the Quake medallion there as there is that it would be inside Turtle Rock, which that is where it is, but they don't know that.
Yep, and Vitreous is having no problems for prieR, and so it's gonna be GT time.
You know what that means, GTG?
No, go ahead and tell me what it means.
Oh, I'll tell you what it means. That means it's time for the Ganon Tower Big Key guessing game. So give us just a moment to get that set up, and when we give you the signal, go ahead and get your guesses in chat. Okay, get your guesses in. GTG, what is your guess?
I'm going to guess, just because of everything else these runners had to go through, I'm going to guess just the very first chest, specifically right in the Hope Room.
The left chest in the Hope Room, you mean?
No, the one on the right.
The one on the right, okay. I am going to say... I'm just going to throw out a number. I'm just going to say 14.
That sounds like a pretty solid guess. Right in the, not quite right in the middle, but
right in the bowels of GT.
Yeah, that'll be a nice one. Not a full clear, but makes them look around a little bit.
Yeah, so we'll be keeping count here to see where that big key ends up. Oh, prieR is heading left side. And there's the big key, number 1. You got it right.
Not the way I intended to get it right. But
not the way you thought you were going to get it, but you did get it. How about that? Congrats.
I guess my commentary's been a little on tonight, at least in terms of guessing where stuff will be.
Yeah, and you got to imagine prieR's feeling pretty good about themselves, opting to go left instead of, the much more traditional quick jump, jump into those first 2 chests in the Hope Room on right side. To have that pay off, they got to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's potentially over a minute saved, depending on if there ends up being a small key on the right side.
Yeah, and then they were able to just go into the next room and grab that key under the pot for the one they're going to need on the top of Ganon's tower. So that really could not have been any faster. I don't think there's a situation where that could have gone any faster. Maybe if they went right side and got big key and then a small key immediately in the next chest, but that was still pretty dang fast. prieR making their way through the gauntlet, leaving that fairy behind. I love it. It's also really nice when you're able to just dash straight through that room with the ice and the conveyors and hit both the enemies on the way.
Yeah, definitely. But prieR generally having excellent execution here. And just want to point out that that was a really nice Lambo 2 one cycle as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great execution. Tatsoft in chat pointing out a really strong menu execution from prieR. always like to see that. You know, the thing about menuing is that it's something that you can control. You know, Randomizer is full of things that are out of your control, and you're just trying to manage it the best you can. The menu is something that it's your inputs, right? The items you have change exactly how you put those inputs in and where they bring you around, but having a really strong knowledge of the menu, I think it's indicative of really strong play, just all around. It shows that they've spent a lot of time with the game and they're invested in getting faster at something that they know that they can control. Yeah, as Kamikaze Meatball says in chat, they've played this game before. They have played it before.
Yeah, definitely. Just such a strong display of skill from both runners tonight. Really, I feel like the biggest time difference here is coming mostly from just prieR making that unfortunate extra trip up the mountain and that double dip into Pod and Eastern.
Yeah, and again, it's just one of those things, you know, Rando presents you with choices that you can make, and you can make one choice and it can pay off great, and you can go the other way and it's still a very valid choice, but sometimes that choice just doesn't pay off. But you're absolutely right. The execution for both of our runners today this evening has been really high. So it's been a great race to watch. prieR finishing up Agate 2. And prieR coming in to take care of Vitreous with that silver arrows in the bow. That makes it pretty quick.
Yep. Since Vitreous can definitely be a problem with more limited loadouts, it always feels nice to be able to just go in and just pop some silver.
Okay, and prieR now begins their ascent of Castle Tower.
Yep, not time for Ganon just yet. Due to all dungeons, got one more thing to do.
This is a dungeon after all. Oh, prieR takes a running leap off the bridge there. Just forgot to cancel that dash until it was a little bit too late, but it sure looked funny.
Would be nice if you could just jump across the bridge, though.
Yeah, it would.
Now, it has been asked in chat why prieR is doing this and can't just kill Ganon, and that's because this is all dungeons gold mode, which means that every dungeon in the game must be cleared before Ganon is able to be defeated. If prieR were to jump in and try to fight Ganon right now, he would be able to get up to, I want to say, phase 4, but from that point, Ganon would be completely invincible, and it would be impossible to kill him.
And it's very common to see the runners wait until this point to do their Aga 1 because they've just been teleported to the top of the pyramid. It's just a quick mirror, run in, do it, and then you can mirror back and kill Aga. Or, sorry, kill Ganon.
Yeah, it's always nice when the route lets you do that. Sometimes it's still an Aga 1 seed for progression, and then you end up just having to pick when to do it. But when that's not the case, like it is now, it really feels nice to just be able to mirror there and have that nice clean route to the end because it takes you back to the pier.
Unfortunately, prieR is going right side. We know that the big key is immediately on the left side on the torch. prieR, I would imagine, essentially making a gamble against what they thought prieR might do, thinking that going right side could give them an advantage. Again, just making a choice, and unfortunately, it wasn't the right one. But really, not something you can fault him for. You know, just a gamble.
Yep, that's the thing about a randomizer. Sometimes you make a play, and it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, I always feel so much like Captain Obvious when I say something like that, but it really it bears repeating. You know, this is a game of gambles and chance and skill in a lot of ways. One of the great things about it is the execution is so dang important. I think that's why it's such a fun competitive game, but there's a lot of, you know, for lack of a better word, guessing that happens.
Yeah, and tonight, prieR certainly made a lot of the really great guesses. Had a bit of trouble due to that mirror situation, but the route overall paid off very nicely for him.
And yeah, the key was that they were able to continue to do things, you know, complete dungeons as they looked for that mirror. So while, you know, they didn't have it and prieR had that advantage, they were still getting things done while they looked for it. And that's really the key.
Yep, and prieR showing that that decision to go ahead and leave the green mail behind, or the red mail behind on the ether tablet was absolutely not an issue. Not even taking damage from the first two phases of Ganon. Probably not going to take any damage at all.
Yeah, really excellent.
Getting that torch switch by switching to lamp, that's nice because it just guarantees it. Does have that one-shot miss, so we'll be going into another cycle, but this is going to be over.
And with that, prieR takes this race. GG to prieR. We'll have that official time for you in just a moment. Looks like it's going to be about 1 hour, 52 minutes, and about 44 seconds or so. So GG to prieR57 for winning this race. Okay, we'll see if we can get prieR in for a post-race interview.
Meanwhile, prieR going to be heading up into the late section of GT here after finishing off Lemmo 2. Unfortunately, was not able to land the one cycle, but still got it done pretty cleanly. Does have spare magic to go ahead and do the cane strats, but unfortunately, given that prieR has stopped, it looks like that might be a forfeit.
Yeah, looks like that might be the case.
Still, gotta give it up for prieR. He played an excellent game. Just got a little unlucky with some of the routing choices that this time just didn't pay off.
Absolutely.
So in that case, they might both be able to come in for interview around the same time.
Okay, and we're joined by prieR57. GG, prieR.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. So how would you say you felt about that seed altogether?
In fact, that's my my very first Old Dungeon seed. I never played that before, so I'm pretty happy how I managed to play this one.
Yeah, I'd have to say from the way you were playing it, definitely would not have been able to tell this was your first all dungeon seed. You were just spot on with pretty much everything. You did get tripped up by that mirror just due to the blacksmith being so inconvenient. Were you feeling like you were maybe behind when you found that, or like it was maybe a more natural part of the progression?
Yeah, in fact, when I found Mar, I think it was maybe my last location. Maybe not. The same with King of Samaria.
Yeah, on the pedestal. What were you thinking when you pulled that pedestal and saw the red cane there?
I was thinking, yeah, okay, but the way Sid went, I think my opponent had some troubles too to find that cane. So I was not that worried about that. So I think maybe a graveyard ledge. That was the only thing I didn't.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't check.
Right. Yeah, it was pretty much pet or graveyard ledge is kind of what we were thinking. So, of course, you know, if it wasn't there, you just head over to graveyard ledge. Now, we did notice, didn't see you check very many hints. In fact, I'm not sure if you had checked any. So I wanted to ask, you know, what do you have against hints, man?
When I played the French tournament, the commentators said the exact same thing. No, I have nothing against hints, but sometimes when I feel I'm too deep in the game, too deep in the seed, I don't need to check that many hints anymore. I have checked lots of things already, so sometimes I think it's not worthy.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's kind of how it shook out. Is, I mean, obviously you were the winner here and didn't need any of the hints. I will say some of them did have, I guess, what you could call useful information, but like you said, it was all places that you were going to go anyways. So that ended up working out really well for you. I'd like to go ahead and bring in prieR so we can all kind of chat here. So give me just one moment and I'll bring them in. All right, prieR, GG.
GG.
So give us your thoughts. What were you kind of thinking as you went through that seed and then finally at the end when you saw the GG from prieR?
I felt very back and forth about this seed. Like at the start, I went to escape, and I got really greedy and tried to go for the dark chest with hammer and 3 hearts, and I died. So I was like, oh, well, I'm probably behind now. But then I got the moon pearl from that, and I was like, okay, I might actually be back in this. And then I died. Like, the way I routed Skull Woods was just horrible. And I was like, all right, well, I think I'm behind now. And then I found the boots hint in Thieves Town, and I thought for sure that I got that before my opponent because of the way routing worked out for me. So I'm like, all right, I might be in this. Then I pretty much full cleared the world until Kane, which was not fun.
Well, it's funny you mentioned, you know, you getting that hint before your opponent, because your opponent actually did not check any hints the whole time.
I'm trying to think. I think there were only 2 of them that were super useful. There was one that said the boots were near Misery Mire, and then another one that said there was a unique item in Turtle Rock. I think those are the only 2 hints that were. Oh, one said there was a unique item on the green pendant.
Yeah,
but I don't even know what was on Bumper Ledge because I didn't check it.
It was inconsequential. I think it was bombs or rupees or something like that. But yeah, it was. We were thinking that, you know, having that hint advantage could, you know, change the way that things happen. I will say that you had mirror quite a bit earlier than your opponent, so there was some speculation kind of as you were running that, you know, using that mirror could give you the advantage.
Yeah, I was hoping that I got boots early. I actually felt like I was a bit behind on mirror because I think when I got mirror, I want to say I had pretty much cleared everything but the blacksmith chain at that point.
Mhm.
So when I got the mirror, the only thing that was left for me was blacksmith, hammer pegs, and purple chest.
Right. Any other thoughts? I'll open it up to both of you. Any other thoughts, kind of interesting things about this seed, kind of to wrap this up?
I hope y'all enjoyed my calculated gamble trying to go to Turtle Rock without the cane.
Oh,
we really thought it was going to be a hover play.
Yeah, we thought you were going to try
I thought about trying it for fun, honestly. But when I got Ether, I was so blinded by Ether at Armos. I was like, Turtle Rock has a special item. I'm like, it's gotta be Quake. So I was blinded by that. Went straight up to Turtle Rock, and I went to menu to the Cane of Samaria, and was highly disappointed.
Yeah, we were thinking maybe you were attempting. First, we thought maybe you were just going to check that hint only, and then we thought maybe you were going to hover, but then we saw you pull down the menu and do some slashes and kind of piece together what might have happened there. But yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, this seed worked against me because like I've been getting burned by doing too much overworld and not enough dungeons, but this like Eastern Palace was empty, Pod was empty, Ice Palace was empty, Swamp was empty. Like the dungeons were almost completely void of items. I think I got Flippers in Skull Woods, Fire Rod in Thieves Town, and that's about all I can remember. Oh yeah, Hookshot was in Desert. But other than that, the dungeons were kind of blank. Like they didn't really have anything.
All right. Any other final thoughts? I think we're about ready to wrap this up.
GG, prieR.
Yeah, GG, and thanks. Thanks you took time to commentate our race. Thanks to Speed Gaming. Thanks to everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was our pleasure, and thanks for putting on such a great race. And that's going to pretty much do it for us this evening. So again, thank you to all of you in chat and all of you on YouTube for watching. Thanks again to our runners. Be sure to give them a follow on Twitch. I'd like to thank my co-commentator, SAGTG, for spending some time to call this one with me. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to be part of this. I'm glad that I was able to see the two of you put on such a great race in particular, and I want to echo the thanks to Tracker and fellow commentator Tim.
All right, Tracker was Falcon, so thank you, Falcon. Shout outs to you. That tracking is a very difficult job, and we appreciate you so diligently staying on top of that and keeping us all in the loop as to what everybody has. And that will do it. So thank you again, everyone, and we'll see you for the next one. Bye now.